Oh, hi, I'm Alan.
And I'm Stick.
You know, tonight we were gonna make gumbo.
But that dream ended quickly. It was much too complicated.
And expensive. So somehow we ended up making cube steak with Spanish rice.
And it ended up coming out delicious. So enjoy.
Hi, I'm Alan.
I'm Stick.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're going to show you how to turn chicken jambalaya into cube steak with Spanish rice. So basically, what happened was we were going to make chicken jambalaya, and the ingredients were so outrageously expensive, we said forget that, and chose a completely new recipe. And that was cube steak with Spanish rice. But we didn't have any of the ingredients, so we made everything from scratch. So the first thing we're doing is making salsa. And so we're using a can of diced tomatoes, a can of salsa seasoning, a little vinegar. We're going to bring that to a boil, and then we'll have some salsa. You should feel free to buy salsa, although this was pretty good.
It was very good and less expensive.
Yeah, it's, I don't remember the brand, but it's little packets of seasoning. You can get them at Walmart, and it's actually pretty good.
Whenever we've made salsa or something spicy, I've always liked it better than something we could have bought.
Yeah.
So now we're going to make some Spanish rice, and the only reason we're making the Spanish rice is because we're going to have a lot of salsa left over from the recipe. So you just kind of combine salsa with a little bit of rice and cook it, and that makes Spanish rice. We'll show you a little.
And Spanish rice is another thing you can just buy, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But I would say make your own Spanish rice, because it's very easy, very good.
It comes out, yeah, it's delicious. So to begin the Spanish rice, we just put a little oil in a skillet, and that's chopped up, finely chopped onions. We sauteed them, and...
Cup, maybe? What? Cup of rice, do you say? Cup and a half?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it was a cup of rice. And this is a little odd. You kind of brown the rice in a skillet in the oil first. I'm not sure why, but that's what the recipe said, so we did, and it comes out good, so that's what we do all the time.
I'd like to point out that that's a cast iron pan, so it won't heat the same way as a regular pan would. You use less heat because it retains more.
Yeah, that was 2 cups of chicken broth, and...
It was basically 1 can of chicken broth, which is about 2 cups, and what was...
that looks like a
cup of salsa.
That doesn't... Is that a half cup?
I think that's what it called for.
Okay, yeah, so about a cup of salsa. Yeah, cast iron skillets are pretty awesome. That's all I have to say on the subject.
Especially if you have to pay for whatever you're using to cook with.
Yeah, I mean, we always have the burner on the lowest setting when we use the cast iron skillet, and sometimes it's still too hot.
So you're going to bring that to a boil, and then cover it.
Our other pans have been reduced to covers.
You give that like 15 to 20 minutes, and you're just going to... There's not really time for that. Whenever the rice gets nice and soft and not hard anymore. And it's really delicious.
Was that a 4th cup of oil?
It was a...
It was a little bit more oil than you'd use to saute something, just because we needed to cook all the steaks.
Okay.
So these are, I guess they're cube steaks. We got them in the same deal as we did in our last recipe with the ham.
Yeah.
It's actually in the future.
But it's also the past.
Nobody knows what that means except us.
I'm not sure we even know what that means.
So these steaks were $1 a piece, so it was a really good deal. We couldn't pass it up. This was our first time experimenting with cube steaks, and it ended up coming out pretty good.
Do we know where the cube part of the body is?
I don't think it's a part. I think it's how they make the steak.
It's basically like ground beef, but instead of grinding it all the way up, they just kind of like...
cube it a little.
Yeah, they kind of cut it so it looks like there's little cubes all over.
Right, it's steak that has been ground, kind of.
It's just really thin and really tender.
Yeah.
Is that just flour, or is anything
Yeah,
else in
just
it?
flour.
And so this process that we're doing right now of flouring the steak and then putting it in oil is chicken frying steak. So that's pretty interesting. It's frying steak like you would a chicken.
Oh, careful.
Yeah, be careful because the handle gets pretty hot. Yeah, so we wanted to make a, what, jambalaya?
Gumbo, I think.
Gumbo. We have made jambalaya, and it's delicious and cheap. But gumbo, can you remember some of the ingredients they wanted? They wanted saffron.
Yeah.
It was like $35 for like a couple of twigs.
Yeah.
And they wanted some other things. It was like... It was like more in spices than we spend on food in a week.
Yeah. So what we did there was we just kind of browned each side in the oil, about maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes apiece or each side. And we're just salt and peppering and seasoning the steaks, and we're going to put those in the oven.
And that was a little all-purpose seasoning there, right?
Yeah.
What was the orange stuff?
That was the allspice or whatever it is.
No, it isn't allspice. That's something different. It was like
What is it called?
seasoning salt, I believe.
Seasoning salt. It was seasoning salt.
Which there isn't really a standard type of that, but just pick whatever one you like.
It's good. It's all good. This is a little more finely chopped onions.
Probably a quarter of an onion.
Just, yeah.
Quarter of a large onion.
We're sauteing those.
Still sauteing them, apparently.
You got to be careful not to burn anything on those pans.
So this recipe was really a, Chris, what would you call it? It was a art through adversity recipe?
Yeah, I guess so, since you didn't have anything and you didn't know what you were doing.
So we're adding our Spanish rice. I think it was 2 cups of Spanish rice. It doesn't really, there's no measurement. It's however much Spanish rice you want to put. Just enough to cover all the steaks.
Well, you basically invented this recipe, so it's whatever you want to tell the people.
Yeah.
And what was that you poured in? Was that...
Sugar?
Sugar? Salt? Sugar?
Sugar would have been interesting.
Couldn't have been salt.
It was sugar.
That was
it already had a lot of salt in it.
So how much sugar was that?
A teaspoon.
A teaspoon of sugar?
Yeah.
Ah, well that does sound good. Yeah.
It's like you didn't even make the recipe.
Well, in our defense, we made it almost 2 months ago now.
Yeah, this was a Halloween special.
Which we...
but because of YouTube, they wouldn't let us put this episode up. They said it was too scary.
What really happened was we got distracted by everything we had to do for pre-Thanksgiving, which you now know is the most important of the holidays. And so now we're just dumping that right on top. And we didn't put tinfoil or anything on it, and so it came out a bit crunchy, but it was still very good. But if you don't want the rice to be crunchy at all, we'd recommend putting tinfoil over the pan.
Exactly.
But either way, will come out very good.
How long do you bake it for, and for what temperature?
350.
No, this was lower. I think this was like 275.
Really?
Because everything's already cooked.
Well, it's not. The cube
Meat
steak's
isn't.
not cooked. It's just been browned. Or did we cook it?
No, you browned it.
Well,
Yeah.
interesting. We'll figure it out and put it up in the comments. But here it is. Came out delicious. One of the best meals we've made in a while. Very, very tasty. And it was only $8, $4 per person. And for such a good meal, that's a pretty good deal.
That should be a catchphrase of ours.